Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Entertainment Roadmap. I'm here today with Tony Cabral.
Hello.
Me and Tony actually went to college together, so this is like really interesting to be back and talking with him. But he has a really exciting story to share. So I'm gonna let you take the ball. So introduce this book. Tell us the title, tell us everything about it.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, my name is Tony Cabral. I am an author based in Washington, D.C. My pen name is A.R. Cabral, so it might look a little different when you see the cover. Looks a little backwards, but my book is called College Runaway. The book is essentially about burnout in college. The protagonist, William Green, is trying to do a little bit of everything, but is not really moving in the direction he wants to. So I feel like that's an experience a lot of college kids have. And so I really wanted to harp on the themes of having a toxic ambition and aspirational anxiety, and kind of, thinking about somebody who spends so much time worrying about their future self that they don't have enough time to take care of their current self. So a lot of those themes about, taking care of yourself and wanting to live up to your dreams and so on and so forth, I really just wanted to put into a book, and I'm happy I did.
Yeah, I feel like this is such an important topic that we don't talk about much. No,
Yeah.
like college can be so detrimental to mental health, even to physical health. Just it's a lot. And I think
Yeah.
writing a book on this is something so fresh because a lot of times the college experience is so romanticized.
Hmm.
And even in your book, focusing on a student that age, I think that's such a tough age because you're not really an adult yet. You're not young. And like you were saying, there's so much focus on your future self, which I think is
Yeah.
challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know when I was kind of going into the publishing process and people were asking me about the targeted audience, I said college students, and there was a kind of a little bit of a pushback by some people because they said, well, that's not exactly all that strong of a market. There's young adult and then there's adult, and so I really was like, no, I think there's a good number of people might want to read something like this. So, and the college students who have picked this up, a lot of them say it's relatable. So think I did my job.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And I think when you're that age, having something to relate to is so important. So I think great for you that you were able to convey that and really help that age group who feels so alone and so unseen. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I think one thing that's so interesting about you is being an author isn't really your full-time job. So you have a current job elsewhere and you're also an author on top of that. So do you want to tell us about your current job and how it fits into being an author?
Yeah, sure. So I work at U.S. News. It's a news outlet. We're based in Washington D.C. I think, yeah, and we also have an outlet up in or an office up in New York. I work in production there, so I do a lot of web production. But on the side, I'm also able to write. I do social media. I work with a lot of awesome, creative, great individuals who do stuff in news media and also writing. And so because I'm constantly, I'm building web pages, making web pages, I'm writing articles, and I'm developing videos. The creative juices are always flowing. There's always opportunities to kind of do something new, find a good way to do to box and to package a story. And that's kind of what it comes down to, is just storytelling. And more than being an author, I really just want to be a storyteller. So I feel really good and comfortable being a journalist in that way. So
That's really cool that you're able to make them relate and you're able to really use your experiences to they go hand in hand. So I think
totally, absolutely.
yeah. And I mean, your job seems like it's awesome. Congratulations. I have so much to congratulate you on. I
Thank
think,
you.
I think that that's just a really cool position. And like doing a little bit of everything's never bad because I don't know about you, but especially at this age, there's so much, well, a little bit younger, there's so much pressure to know exactly what you want to do.
Yep.
You have to
Yep.
know this, you have to know that. Yeah,
It's
all
all,
of
yeah,
it.
it's all in the book. It's great. Yeah.
So I think that you're able to kind of dabble here and there probably really helps with that and kind of figuring out what your long-term goal is.
Yeah, totally. So
Yeah, and I know being an author, release week is pretty exciting. So what was your release week and day like? How did that kind of go?
It was a Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, so only a couple of months ago. My release day was wild because I had a full day of work, and then after work, I told all of like my friends and just my personal network, I'm like, hey, my book's going on sale. If you want to meet me at the bookstore, we can buy some books, and then we can go over. We can get some pizza at a nearby pizza shop. And there was an amazing turnout, such an amazing turnout that we actually sold out of physical copies on the first day, which was fun. So the bookstore, they didn't buy, I think they bought like maybe a dozen copies, only because I'm a first time author. I'm not, my name's not on billboards yet. But yeah, no, but all my friends came in and everyone just bought a copy, and I signed copies and we got pizza afterwards. So that was awesome, but it was really fun and kind of exciting to tell people, hey, I sold out on the first day, and we had back orders, and it was a lot of fun. So it was fun.
That is so exciting. I feel like you almost couldn't have asked for a better day. Like that's what
Yeah,
every author wants to hear. And I
yeah.
think having such a supportive group of friends must have really made the process less daunting and easier because I don't know, if I ever put out a book, I feel like I'd be so scared to get that reaction. But there must just be a lot of feelings involved with that.
Yeah, there were. It's interesting in the creative space. You don't want to lean on your friends and family too much because at the end of the day, stuff like books or songs or so on and so forth, you really want to get outside of your personal and professional network and find its own kind of audience. And so that's kind of where I've been at. But in the initial launch and to celebrate an achievement, just people to people, to write a book and to have it sold in a bookstore in DC is a big deal. So the fact I was able to celebrate that with a lot of awesome people made me feel really great. So I was happy.
So awesome. And I mean, the process behind writing your own novel must be, I don't even know where to begin with that. It must be such a long path. I don't know. What was the process like writing College Runaway?
Yeah, no. So process for writing a book, in my case, it starts with an idea that just leaves you, that is like nagging at you, that you're visualizing characters or a setting or a plot or an idea, and you just want to see it to fruition. It's almost like a math equation that isn't done yet, and you are just, you feel a yearning to solve it. And so in this way, my writing process really kind of starts with first seeing different scenes in my head and seeing different characters. And then when it actually gets time to start writing, that's when you become your own boss. And when you're a creative person, being your own boss can be kind of daunting because you have to keep yourself in line, especially when there's no deadline or no authority figure demanding results. And so I figured I don't have a I don't have a wife or kids right now. I have a lot of free time. It's just a matter of finding the energy and the motivation to sit down and write. And so my writing process is writing 5 pages a day, 5 days a week, doing that until the book is done. So I did that initially, I think, spring 2021. Yeah, it's 2021. I did that. Yeah, but it's just 5 pages a day. I wake up at 6 in the morning and I write 5 pages, so it takes about 2 to 3 hours. So it's almost like it doesn't count in the day because it's so early and nobody else is up and nobody's there to bother me. Write 5 pages, and then I usually like to stop when I know what's going to happen next, which that's advice from Hemingway. And then yeah, and then once I have the rough draft done, I kind of leave it alone for a week or two. Then I go back and I season it with ideas that I had when I was writing it the first time. I go back to the beginning and put those ideas back in, and then it's just revisions and edits and peer edits and going through different cycles and making sure you can try to get it as good and as much as possible. So, and then once it's ready, send it off the publishing process, which is its own unique.
You had a lot of great info there, but the one thing I picked up on was 2021 is when you started this book, and by
Yeah.
2023, you had it out.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. Okay. So it was a pretty, for you, I mean, you seem so dedicated writing your 5 pages and all. For you, it was a fairly quick process.
Um, Fairly. Well, it's sort of an iceberg situation. I've been thinking about this book since I was about a freshman, I think second semester freshman in college. So even back when you and I were in classes with each other, there were ideas for a book and for kind of the plot of this book. So I was, yeah. So it's really it's just swimming around with those ideas. That's like half the battle, and then actually sitting down and writing it. So it took 2 years from writing the first real draft to publication, but I'd say it really started a year or two even before then. So just
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, so all the way back in your Leo Hall days, you were thinking about this book.
yeah, I didn't really even know it was this book really. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. There were themes though, so just
Yeah. Awesome. And so 5 pages a day, 5 days a week. So you do give
mhm.
yourself a little time to breathe and have off to enjoy yourself, it seems.
Yes, I do. And I pick those 2 days. It could be two back-to-back days. It could be a weekend. It could be, you know, could be a Tuesday and then a Thursday. I give myself those breaks for two reasons. First, for just physical health, I need to be able to sleep. If if there's a night that week that I need to be up late, I make sure that I can work it into my schedule. Um, and then the second one is to be realistic in that it's hard to tell people like you can't do things because you're writing something really early in the morning almost like you can get respect in that way, but there are certain commitments. There are certain people in your life who they deserve your attention, and I'm sure other creatives and authors can kind of disagree with this, but in my case I want to make sure that I'm realistic with my time as well.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's good advice for aspiring authors because I'm, first of all, like you said, being your own boss is a little bit hard. That is not an
Absolutely.
easy task. And also, when you think about writing a book and you're like 300 pages, it feels like, when am I ever going to get this done? And I
Hmm.
think, like you said, mapping out time to do it
Yep.
is really important.
Yeah, I almost thought starting in the morning, it's starting before the day starts because nobody expects you to be up at not four, at 6 in the morning. And I mainly write about 2 hours, so 2.5 hours. So I'll be from 6 to 8, 8:30. And nobody texts me. No friends, no coworkers, no emails. There's the world is asleep, and you're able to kind of concentrate on you. So that is important.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you kind of talked about how these ideas for the college runaway have been building up, but when did you get that aha moment? When did you get that real idea? You're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna write this, and I'm gonna finish it.
Um, by the time I was a second semester freshman, I kind of had I was starting to notice a trend in college, which was people leaving college. People either finding new schools, transferring, people dropping out, people pursuing different alternative paths. And I really started to kind of question why would somebody who spent years and so much energy and so much money in high school looking for the right school, how can you just make a switch on a dime that soon? So when I was kind of in that stage of thought, I encountered a lot of people who they just had an idea of saying, "Oh yeah, I just want to pack up everything and go out to California." Especially going to school up in New York, I just during the cold winters, I heard one too many people who, in different conversations and different sides of my life, just people had this fantasy of saying, "I am just going to drop everything and go out to California." And so I kind of I had an idea of okay, what would that look like? And so that was really the first scene in the book, is actually the last scene in the book, but it's of the protagonist at an airport about to board a plane. So and it's kind of the story of okay, what drives a college student to say, I'm done, I'm out, I'm going to the West Coast."
That's really cool. Like, to think about because it's true. And I knew so many people, same thing. Either they would up and leave, or you even see on TikTok where it's like, during the pandemic, I picked up my life and I moved to California and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
And I never thought of it in this way, but it's true. What drives them to that point,
Yep.
especially people who are at their dream college or they're where they want to be in life and they still pick up and go.
Yeah.
And I think that's really an interesting thing to kind of think about, to look into, because you almost work your whole life up to college. Like you're in kindergarten
Totally. Yeah.
and you know that you're going to school so that you can get through high school and go to college. Like as a little 5-year-old, you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So what drives you away from what you worked up to. That, oh my God,
Mhm.
it's like a crazy thing to kind of grasp because
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
but it's just wait, I feel like I just talked over you.
No, I was just gonna say it's just a crazy thing to grasp because you just don't think about it a lot. Like sometimes I feel like I'm even guilty of being like, I just want to move to California, but I never think of why I feel that way.
Yeah. And I really wanted to take a look at that kind of motivation under a microscope, which is the book. I've had a friend or two describe it as a little bit of a slice of life. There's no giant explosions or action scenes, but it really is kind of just taking a look at, okay, um, how does someone slowly kind of lose themselves and they're kind of yeah, it's interesting. So.
But I feel like you just said there's no action scenes or explosions, but I feel like sometimes that's better because you're writing a book that's so realistic. It's not like, oh my God, I left college and then the world blew up around me and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. Like it is a very realistic thing. And when you're in that age demographic, and even now, like getting my master's and starting this podcast and trying to figure out what I want to do full time, it's like, what is keeping me staying where I am and why am I not wanting to run? So it is an interesting concept to kind of grasp why some people do get that in them to just go.
Hmm.
And I mean, you kind of brought up Hemingway and his advice before, which I thought was really cool, but who inspires you?
So, as far as inspiration, I was not a big reader growing up at all. I wanted to be an author because of the whole storytelling idea, and so a lot of the important stories growing up were TV and movies and a little bit of theater. But as I really started saying, okay, I want to sit down and I want to write because it's the clearest, best way to be able to build a story is to put it in written word, and it's just between yourself. I don't need a production crew. I don't need any technology to do this or so on and so forth. I just have to have Microsoft Word and sit down and do it. And so my literary inspirations, I focus on the classics a lot because I wasn't a reader. I read a lot of the books from high school, so a lot of To Kill a Mockingbird, Frankenstein, Dante's Inferno, stuff that was assigned to me. But two books really stuck out in particular from my high school experience, which was the Portrait of Dorian Gray, or Picture of Dorian Gray. I think. Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and then Hamlet by Shakespeare. Because I really felt that those two stories about an individual, usually a young man who I can, a lot of guys kind of relate to, but losing their marbles, losing their mind, but it's their own undoing, and kind of that slow burn to like, oh my gosh, they're screeching towards a car accident that they can't stop. And so there was that part of the literary inspiration. And then, as you mentioned, you said Hemingway. And when I was kind of deciding what I wanted to study in college, and I came on journalism because that was a great way to know how to build stories. And again, that whole idea of trying to be a storyteller. I was in journalism school while I was writing this book, so a lot of there's a lot of short quotes and really snippy straightforward language. So I would just say really just journalism, news writing, and then a lot of the classics.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big reader growing up. I mean, I kind of fall in and out with reading. Like, I'll be
Mm,
so into it, then I'm not into it, then I'm so into it, then I'm not into it. So I kind of feel you on that one. And I think going to the classics is such a great resource. And I think how you brought up that Hamlet and the Dorian Gray book were about men kind of losing their marbles. I think that
yeah,
was interesting because a lot of time the mental health of men is not focused on.
absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think I wrote toxic masculinity in this, or I don't know if it's in the, but there is so much toxicity and so much other stuff in this book that it is a little bit of a case study on masculinity in college, and kind of there's this unspoken kind of drive and motivation behind this protagonist. So yeah, totally. Again, I feel everyone, regardless of gender, they can empathize with this character, but definitely there is a little bit of toxic male energy in this. So.
Yeah, and I think that's so great to discuss because, and again, this is coming from me as a female, I think we really focus on female mental health, and there's a lot of books about that. So seeing you kind of do something groundbreaking with this and bring men to the forefront and focus on their mental health too, I think is really inspiring. And it probably took a lot of work from you to be able to put this onto a page and bring it forward.
Yeah, totally. There's a bit of a, and you can read about, there are articles about this, but kind of the crisis of masculinity we're in right now, where a lot of guys don't know what it means to be a man, kind of. And I know I feel kind of blessed. I've said this to a few people, but I feel kind of blessed. I get to be a part of the generation that redefines masculinity. And I hope I wrote a book where that's kind of like the anti-hero masculinity. I don't think that William Green should be maybe the idol or the direction that guy should head in. But definitely, I think there's a lot of potential to other authors and creatives to kind of explore, okay, what does masculinity look like in the 20th? And how has this changed in the past 5 years, the past 50 years, the past 100 years? It's wild. So we're really on a wild trip right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, how has your life changed since the release of this book? Is anything different? Do you like, do you feel more accomplished, maybe even?
Netflix hasn't called me yet to make this into a series, so it hasn't changed that much. But I will say there's some validation to writing a book. As I was rounding it down in the publishing process, I had a lot of friends, some people in my professional network, some people from school who just reached out and were like, "Oh, I have this idea for a book. I wasn't able to do it. I think that's awesome that you're able to. Can you give me some insight on how you did it?" And I'm always happy to talk to people about how the writing process and the publishing process that I took. But really, at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, I did it. There was a idea, and it came to fruition, and I willed it to be. I know I did not. I don't have any connections in the publishing world. Nobody in my immediate family has ever written a book. Nobody, yeah, even outside of the immediate family, I can't think of anybody. And even in my professional, I just, this is really something that I willed it to be, and that gives me a good, validation on I'm on the right road. I'm able to keep doing this. So,
Yeah, I mean, you got your own foot in the door because it's not easy when you don't have any connections. And I think that's a big thing in this industry.
you can read about that in this book as well. Yeah, yeah. There's that's a subject in here.
Because I know even going to college, sometimes it's hard because you see people with a lot of connections doing what you want to be doing. And
Yeah.
it's really hard because how do you gain that experience or those internships when
Mm-hmm.
it's going to people who already have their foot in the door?
And when putting your foot in the door, for some people, uh, that foot in the door is because of the family that they were born into or where they were born. I know if you want that awesome job in New York City, that might be harder if you were born in the Midwest or if you were born in the South. Whereas somebody who is from one of the five boroughs and has a mom or dad who does something, and of course, it comes down to what people do with the opportunities that they've been given. Nobody has had the advantages you've had in your life. I think that's from Gatsby. So literary. No, but nobody's had the advantages you've had. And it's coming to terms with, okay, what are your advantages and how are you going to let that put you ahead in life?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think, again, just hearing how you did this all by yourself is really inspiring. And it's an inspiration for people who want to do the same, but feel like they just don't know where to go or how to even start. So I think
Sure.
this interview will be great for that because hearing the advice for 5 pages a day and that it is possible if you don't have anyone guiding you. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, totally.
And I just have to know, are there any future releases on your radar?
Of course, I'm only 25 years old. I still have a lot of time and energy. College Runaway, I I think it's a good book. A lot of people have told me it's a good book, but I know that I wrote that book when I was about 22, 23 years old with the crux of it. That's when I sat down and did the structure and the plot and so on and so forth. I've been reading a lot. I've been learning a lot. I've been talking to other creatives. I have new ideas. I have new thoughts. The ultimate goal is to be a storyteller, and so I want to keep telling stories regardless of the medium. but definitely for right now, I think I'm going to keep writing. I have ideas, but they're all just still kind of cooking up here,
Yeah.
so which is good.
Yeah, awesome. And I think, oh, I totally lost my train of thought. It was going off of something you said. Um, yeah, just having these ideas in your head and having them float around, they eventually come to fruition.
Yeah,
But that, yeah, I think, and there's, like you said, even though this is a good book, there is always room to improve, and there's always so much to learn,
absolutely, absolutely.
especially at our age right now,
Yep,
25, 26, 27. There's so much that we're still learning. So
yep,
that,
yeah. And I do think, yeah, because there are some people who they think that you can peak when you're in your early 20s, and I don't think that's the case. That's not. It's I really I College Runaway is great. It's my baby for right now. I love it, but I really hope that my best work is when I'm like 35 or 40. And
yeah.
that's it's still out there and it's something to chase.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, Tony, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a great episode. I can't wait to get it out. And it was so great to learn all about College Runaway.
Absolutely. Allie, thank you so much for having me on.